Welcome to the Shine Your Light, Reach Your Best podcast. I'm your host, Claire Thomas. I'm on a mission to support women who feel stuck, unfulfilled and disempowered to have a successful, fulfilled, soul-led life. I guide women to reawaken their unique power so they can shine their light and reach their best. Whether you know it or not, you are an incredible, unique and powerful being, and you are here for a reason. Don't let it go to waste. This podcast is designed to support and enrich the Shine Your Light, Reach Your Best self-development coaching cards. If you have a deck, then I thank you for helping me to shine my own light. And if you haven't, then follow the link in the show notes and head on over to my website to get your deck. It will be the best, most loved investment you make this year. But for now, sit back, relax, and let's work out how to shine all our lights brightly. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Shine Your Light podcast. Today's episode is called What's in a Name? A Light is Reborn. What, pray tell, could I be talking about today? I'm chuckling to myself because I've kind of grown to realize that the best way of doing these podcasts is to just let go of any inhibitions, to accept that each podcast will come out exactly as it's meant to be, and that somehow I will miraculously find the right words to talk for an undefined number of minutes about whatever the topic's going to be. So I do have some ideas about what I'm going to talk about in this particular episode. It's about names. And before we get on to names, maybe I'll just spend a few minutes talking to you about words. I mean, what are words? I'm not somebody that ever excelled in English, in my opinion at least, and my comfort with writing and using my different words has grown over the years. And yes, there's a number of years that I've learned to acquire those skills now. But words they're all made up. And at some point, somewhere, a collection of voices or noises came together to form a word. And these words form the basis of how, as humans, we communicate with each other. So they convey a message, they convey a meaning, and therefore maybe also an energy that is somewhere within those words as well. But I guess in some respects, I can choose how I want a word to make me feel. I can choose how I respond to a word. And I also am going to associate my experiences that I've lived with particular words. And I'm going to attach memories to some words. So some words might have an extreme negative memory associated with them, and others might just tap into moments when things were great and I felt wonderful, and they might just take me straight back to that. So, and I guess we all know that the language is continuously evolving, and it's incredible. Even if you compare the words used in, say, one of Shakespeare's books or plays, which is, I believe, like 400 odd years old now, and that we can still understand the meaning of those words, and we wouldn't necessarily choose to structure our sentences and phrases in the way that Shakespeare did. But they do have a meaning that's associated with them. And equally, the words that even I see my teenage daughters using or hear them using, I'm like, what does that word even mean? Where did it come from? I would have some examples to share with you, but sometimes these words are so bizarre that I just cannot understand where they're coming from. And every year, the big dictionaries in the world, like the University of Oxford Cambridge Dictionary, for example, they update their words and they add new words that reflect where our culture, our experiences are in this moment in 2024, which words need to be incorporated into the dictionary so that it becomes this living representation of how we communicate and express ourselves. So starting with that as a basis, maybe that even gives you some food for thought. But have you ever considered what's in a name, as in your name? How were you given your name? Did it happen by chance, or where did your parents come up with your name? And I suppose starting is with that that point when we were thinking of names for our eldest, Ruby. There were many little things that happened that brought the name Ruby into our awareness. So one was that I was working at a startup company, and the technology that they were using to program was called, oh gosh, now I've forgotten it, Ruby in the something. I want to say Ruby in the Sky with Diamonds, but that's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. But there's a programming language called Ruby. So that was one of them. There was also the Kaiser Chiefs song, Ruby, 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 that was, pardon my singing, it's terrible. That's just my opinion. That was always playing on the radio, and that was somehow front of mind. And then also there was a car that was parked outside our flat in London. And the registration number, how it worked on those ones was it was a letter, 1, 2, or 3 numbers, and then 3 letters. And this particular car, I think it was a dark blue estate or something, had an R, random collection of numbers. Don't remember them.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
Alexa's not sure about that. So it had an R at the beginning, a random collection of numbers, and then UBY at the end. And when I looked at that registration plate, to me, it said Ruby. And all of those things coming together when we were going through the list of names, Ruby felt like it was the perfect name for her. And also it worked with the middle name we wanted to have for her, which was Rose, which was a family name. So Ruby Rose it was. And that name just suits Ruby. She is Ruby. And I think it's just really fascinating how we are what our names are. So about 2 years ago, I was part of a group coaching session, and I can't remember the details of that coaching session because I'm not very good at remembering things. You may have gathered that by now. But there was something that we were doing that was making us reflect on our names and the meaning of our names. And I started thinking about what's the meaning of my name. And I knew that Claire meant light. It's the French word for light. And I spell it with all the letters. And that is the feminine way of spelling light. Obviously, you can spell it in French without the E, and that's the masculine way of spelling it. And then there is the way of spelling it without the I and the E. But I've always been Claire with everything. So I always knew my name meant light, but never placed any real meaning on it. And then I started thinking about my middle name. Now, my middle name is Renee. And actually, I'm going to wind back a tiny step first. I'd always asked my parents, when you're a kid, like, how did you come up with my name? Just like the story I've just told you about Ruby's name. And there was a song in the 1970s, which was when I was born, called Claire, and it was obviously very popular. So similar to my experience of having a song that had the name Ruby in it, my parents were listening to a song that had Claire in it. And it was obviously a very popular name because there were so many Claires in my class at school. There were 5 Claires in my French class. There were 5 Claires in my maths class, and there was an overlap of those Claires. So there were maybe 7 Claires in a year group of maybe 120. So that's where Claire came from. And then my middle name is Renee. And I asked the same question, well, where did the name Renee come from? And my mum would always recount this story of, was it a song or something called Don't Walk Away, Renee? And there was a duo or something called Renee and Renata. So I think that's how the name came into her awareness. And my mum was always really into all things French. And I think she would have loved to have brought me up as a bilingual French-English person, although she doesn't speak fluent French herself. And ironically, I do speak fluent French now. So that's also quite an interesting segue as well. So anyway, she always had said to me that she would have liked to have called me Renee Claire. But she was, or they were concerned at the time that if I was called Renee Claire, then people would call me Renee, and that people wouldn't know that you said it, Renee, and they would then call me Renee. And she didn't like the idea of me being called Renee. So I was born and named Claire Renee. So I've already told you that I speak fluent French, but it was only 2 years ago when I was on this call that, and it always makes me laugh when I say this, that I really understood what the word Renee means. So Renee, the nay, the N-E acute E, is the past participle of the verb to be born. So it's born, the feminine born. And Renee is reborn. So suddenly I understand that my name means light reborn. And when I had that realization, it kind of like shocked me to the core that how could my name was that powerful, and it had never been in my awareness before that the power that was in that name. And it's almost like I wasn't supposed to know that that's what my name meant until I was ready to be reborn. And I know that it sounds completely crazy to explain it in this way, but when I look at my journey over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years and all the work I've done on myself and how I understand myself now, I really feel that this period of time that I'm in and have been going through, this phase of my life, has been about my light being reborn. And when that hit home, I was like, this is crazy. And the tears rolled down my face. I was just shocked to the core for not just a few minutes, but a few days. And maybe you can even still kind of feel that in me, that the power in that name was just incredible. And it was just so beautiful that understanding came in that moment. So all of the work that I'm doing and calling my self-rediscovery coaching cards Shine Your Light and Reach Your Best, this all really stems from Claire Renee. Not just me, my physical manifestation, but it comes like from a greater energy, an energy of light being reborn. And that's what I believe that I am here for. I am here to help you be reborn, to help you discover your light so that you can shine it brightly and that so you can reach your best. So that's what I wanted to share with you in this episode. I hope that it's not too completely bizarre and random. I hope that you have enjoyed listening to this story, and maybe it inspires you to take a look at what your name means. And is there any message there in your name that you can take away, that you can use to inspire you? Nothing more, nothing less, just some inspiration. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please find a way to get in touch with me. Drop a note in the comments, like, subscribe, all those things. And I really value and appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Shine Your Light, Reach Your Best podcast. Your support is greatly appreciated, so please follow the show. I'd love you to like, comment and share this episode with anyone else whose light needs some help shining. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm open to having guests on my podcast. So if you would like to share your story, please send me an email to claire@reachingmybest.com or click on the link in the show notes. So for now, keep shining and reaching for your best.